On the road to Macstock with Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast. This is MacVoices. This edition of MacVoices is supported by the new MacVoices Discord, available to all of our MacVoices patrons. Sign up and join in the conversation in your new favorite online group at patreon.com/MacVoices. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, this is another Road to Macstock show. This one's just a touch different, though, because this will be the first presenter we have talked to that is not only doing a presentation at Macstock proper, but is also doing one of the new Friday workshops. That means we're talking to Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast. God, Allison, I froze completely. I got stuck on pod feet and I couldn't say NosillaCast. It's great to see you.
You can say the pod feet podcast empire if you want. You can go along with that.
Empire? And what, does that make you queen? Is that what this is?
Always.
Hey, it's great to see you.
Yeah, so Mike tricked me into doing two presentations.
Yeah. I've it just hit me that, we're going to be talking to hopefully all the presenters, but you're the first one that is going to have both the workshop as well as the regular presentation. So as you know, we don't want you to give either one here. We just want to let folks know what you're going to be talking about at both of them so they can come prepared and sort of figure out what if they want to take notes or not and all that. So I'll let you tell me, where do we want to start? The Macstock presentation or the workshop?
Why don't we start with the workshops, because this is a new idea. I haven't seen this happen yet since it's the first year we're going to do it, but I think it's an extended play thing. I think it's an hour or more, maybe, where the person doing the quote unquote presentation will be live demoing things you can do yourself. So you are going to be participating in this event. So mine is going to be Mac focused. So bring a Mac. You can bring an iPad if you want, but you aren't going to be able to do pretty much anything I'm going to show you because it's going to be very, very Mac centric. And so I'm going to teach something and you're going to do it. And we're all going to discuss whether or not how it worked and whether people got stuck on anything. And my topic is tiny Mac tips. I thought about it. That's probably a bad name. It should be Mac Tiny Tips because the Mac isn't tiny. It's the tips that are tiny. But so what are you going to do?
Yeah, be that as it may. So that sets you up for a pretty broad kind of topic. Is there going to be a particular theme, or is it just little one-trick ponies, or?
Yeah, they are as much as possible the one-trick ponies. I've done a big series of blog posts on this. I think I have 8 of them, 8 separate blog posts that are just filled with these tiny Mac tips. And I've also done them for the Screencast Online as video tutorials, which is, if you're not familiar with that, screencastonline.com. It's a learning service it's a subscription service, and I do video tutorials for them as well. And they're really fun because they're bite-sized. So if I show you one and you're like, I don't care about that, don't worry about it. There's another one coming right after it that would probably be of more interest. So I'm going to try to stay away from the ones that require a whole lot of work, but just little cool tricks and tips. And it really started with Jill McKinley. Jill McKinley is one of the presenters at Macstock. She presented last year, rocked the house, was amazing. And she switched from Windows to the Mac just recently. And she told me, she said, I was so good on Windows. She was a Windows admin. I mean, she knew how to make that thing sing. And she's like, but I feel like I'm such a novice on the Mac. I want to know all the little tricks. And so I started this series for her, and they're all targeted as you've come from another platform or you want to level up your game, as you might say. You can institute these little tips. And as you get the hang of these, it makes you feel more like a maestro with your machine instead of using a hammer and chisel every time you try to do anything.
So I may break my rule just a little bit here and ask you for just one tiny tip to give folks an idea.
I knew you'd.
Well, and Allison, I guess the reason I'm asking is, are we talking about, would a tiny tip be download this particular app that, turns your screen blue or something, or is it more structuring using the OS itself?
No, it's definitely more using the OS yourself. It's not, I don't think I talk about any third-party apps at all. So it's not going to cost you any money to go to my tutorial, or what do they call it? My workshop. You're going to just learn how to do things. Like one of my favorite things to teach people is how much you could do in a Finder window to make it more useful for you. For example, the left sidebar is a place I use all the time where I drag in things I'm going to use this week and I drag them out when I'm not going to use them next week. So I have a folder for every week's show for the podcast. I drag it into there. And then at the end of the week, I drag that one out and I drag in the new one. And that way I'm not, fishing my way through the Finder every time to get to where my files are. The only downside of that is I'm not sure where my files are because I use that left sidebar to get to them all the time. And I bury things really deep, 28 levels deep in the Finder, but I don't have to know that because I've got them right in the sidebar. That's kind of an example, and the things you can do to tailor the top of the sidebar, putting little scripts up there, how to just everything you can do in a Finder window. That seems like a really rudimentary, tiny little topic, but there's just each of these little things. It's like, oh, that would make my life easier today, and that's kind of the theme of where I go with that.
First of all, I love the sidebar option because I see so many people that I open their Mac or they open their Mac or they turn on their Mac and it's like the stock sidebar. It's like, what? Why? It's a tiny tip, but man, is it useful. So
it's not the kind of thing that really surfaces itself, right? If nobody ever told you that you can rearrange them, that you can make them go away, things that are in there go away, something you never use, you just drag it out and it's gone. Oh, want it back? Just drag it back in. Just go get it and put it right back in. And so it's not something that a lot of these are things like that where if you don't know, you don't know. So it's not like people are uneducated or, they're not paying attention. It's just never comes up. They never tell you how to do it.
And I love what you said about that you have a show each week for a folder each week for the show, because you're right. It doesn't. They seem to think that, well, if I change this, it now has to be locked in stone for 6 months, and it can be just for a couple hours or a day or two or one project or whatever, and then rearrange it again. So that's
you're going on vacation. You're going on vacation. You got a folder for everything you need for that vacation. You got your car rental thing and your hotel and your airline and all that. And the conversations go back with your friends or family you're going with. Just drag that little folder into the sidebar. Get you all excited. You open up the window. Ooh, I'm going on vacation. And then you're really sad after because you drag it out and it's gone. Go back to work, Chuck.
So you are encouraging people to actually bring their Macs with them and follow along.
100%. Yeah. You can certainly get a lot out of it and take notes without it, but I think it's more fun to have it with you and just go, oh, I'm going to use that. I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. I'm going to do what she just said. Let me practice it. Let me see if I understand it. That way you can remember how to do it better if you have it with you. I know a lot of people don't like to travel with their Macs, but that's just not correct. You should always have your Mac with you, in my opinion.
Oh boy, that's a conversation we could have a long way, because I agree with you. I think that there are too many people that get hung up on, I want my iPad to replace my Mac. And it's like, well, why? Just buy a lighter Mac.
Bring the right tool.
Well, bring the right tool, but just, it's not that much of a weight difference. And I can't, so the touch
now it
screen,
isn't, yeah.
The touchscreen, all right, the touchscreen is one point of difference, but I don't want my greasy fingers all over my Mac screen.
Yeah, I'm of course teasing that anybody should have to do what I do, but I carry my Mac and my iPad at all times. I've finally gone down to a MacBook Air. So it's a MacBook Air and a 13-inch MacBook Pro. And we go to somebody's house for the evening. I bring them both with me. So I don't know about it. I'm a little weird that way.
I'm going to leave that one there. No, listen, I agree, because people say, well, if depending on what you're doing with your iPad, just do it with your phone. And it's like, well, yeah, but I've got so much more real estate on the iPad, and I've got so much of a different kind of power on the Mac that I'm with you. I travel with all three constantly. It's just the way it is. So,
yeah. One of the other things I'm going to focus on in the workshops is things you can do that are true in all of the apps. I'm going to really do a spoiler here. Did you know that Command Comma is settings in pretty much every single app? Once you learn that one, I learned that one from Don McAllister in one of his Screencast Online tutorials. Any app you're in, Command Comma. You might find some real mutant apps that don't do it, But when you want settings for an app, Command comma. That's a great one to learn because it's so universal. You'll end up using it a lot.
I did not know.
Or how about, yeah, right? Who knew? It's right there in the menus, and they all say it, but I never knew it until I saw Don McAllister do it. Another one is like when you want to get to the bottom of a page, you're in Apple Notes, you're in Preview, you're on a web page. It's Command down arrow. Let me make sure that's the right one. Where's an app I can look at it in? I closed everything so I'd be paying attention. Here's one. Command down arrow. Yeah, Command down arrow goes to the bottom. Command up arrow goes to the top. I'm always wanting to go to the bottom or top of a web page. Or I've scrolled partway down. I want to see the thing at the top. Command up arrow. Boom. I'm right back. That one actually works on the iPad too. So for those people who are not going to bring their Macs or not big Mac people, they got one too for free.
Okay, that's interesting. I can't say that's one that I would use that often, I don't think. But now that I know it, I will do some experimenting. So
I have a 7 million line long Apple note of the year and 3 months I've been fighting with Apple for them to honor AppleCare and replace my M1 MacBook Pro. And I have every note I've ever taken in it. And so when I have a new note to write, I've got to scroll to the bottom of that thing. And I am not scrolling that far because it's really far. Command down arrow, boom, I'm at the bottom of the note and I can start writing, especially in Apple Notes because it's tedious to scroll.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay, I've got to ask something since you brought this up. Are you one of those that likes the invisible menu bars, the scrolling bars, or do you want them up front and there all the time?
Oh, no, one of my tiny tips is how to turn them on.
Yeah, okay.
Come on.
Okay.
Nature intended them to be there.
Yeah. Okay.
It drives me nuts when they're not. I'm like, where'd they go?
I know. And you have to hover to find them again. I'm with you on that one. Okay, so we've got now, we've even shared a few tips. We broke our rule about, not giving the presentation here, but there's going to be a lot more because any one of those is 30 seconds to a minute. So you're going to have a lot more. How about the actual presentation at Macstock itself? What are you going to touch on this year?
Yeah, what do you think I should talk about this time, Chuck?
I got in trouble last year with Mike because you shifted it on the show on the fly, and he had to hear about it.
You shifted it.
I just suggested.
Actually, I was talking about my topic with Chuck, and he could just tell I wasn't excited about it. It was not blowing my dress up. I was like, yeah, I'm going to talk about this. Yeah. And when I'm good is when I'm excited and I'm jumping around on stage and telling you how exciting this amazing thing that I know is and how I want you to learn it. And so Chuck heard the disappointment in my voice, and then we just started on another topic. I think it was mind mapping. We started talking about it, and I started to get animated and excited. And he goes, "Well, you should do your topic on that."
Yeah, and it was a great presentation as it ended up. I don't know what the other one would look like, but so
terrible. No, I actually owe you one for that. I mean, I know Mike was a little annoyed since he had actually, I think he'd already printed the documentation, the user manual for it. I forget what do you call a thing you hand out to people?
Program?
He probably doesn't hand anything out anymore. Program. There you go. The program guide.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's okay. Listen, if you hit the stage, they know there are always going to be surprises. So, well, do we have maybe a starting point this year, and then we'll figure out how we're going to modify it?
See what you're going to wreck with it. Yeah. So the theme of the show this year is level up, and this is a little bit of an extension of the same kind of thing as my tiny tips. But what I'm going to try to do is help people have a different way of thinking about leveling up, a different way of thinking of how to use your tools. What can you do to level up your game in using the tools that we have here on the Mac and the iPhone and the iPad? And again, it might be a little bit Mac-centric, but it's more, a lot of it's going to try to be philosophical. Like, don't get stuck in the past. Don't be, or try to think about not being the get off my lawn kind of guy or person, woman, one of the things I see people do often in technology is technology moves on and they don't wanna. And so they stay in the past on purpose. And then there comes a time when they have to, and then that turns out to be a real bad time. So instead of doing it on your own schedule, you end up getting forced to do it at some time. And it's something like reverse scrolling on the Mac. I know they've never taken that away, but I always figured there's going to be that day that they just go, no, everybody has to do it our way. And those people are going to be really sorry and sad. And maybe they never will. Or there was some big database program that got deprecated, and everybody said, okay, we got to find a new tool. We got to move on. Let's all go do it. And by everybody, I mean the internet moved on. So if you were trying to do it, you could find people who knew how to do the changes that you were trying to do. And then there were the people who never, ever, ever wanted to change. And finally that thing died. And now they're asking the question and nobody remembers how they did it. Nobody's out there answering the questions. You didn't have this plethora of advice to go to on the internet because it was all, we already did that. We did that 5 years ago. I don't remember. Somebody come and say, I got to get the data off of this zip drive. Okay. Good luck. The tools are just not there anymore. And there probably is a way to do it, but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah. Well, we're about the same age, and I'm sure you saw it too, that as in the working world, as computers became more common and then they landed on everyone's desk, there was a group of people that just could not adapt. No matter how many times you told them, you can't break anything, you can't hurt it, they were just afraid of it. And they retired early. They quit. And it was just such an incredible brain drain for, at least in my industry, because they had so much knowledge about the industry, but they were afraid to implement the new tool, and so they just stepped away.
There was a time in my company where I was in the engineering field, and we had computer-aided design systems had been in for a while, and there was we were merged a couple organizations, and one group used computer vision, and one used Pro Engineer, and the computer vision guys did not want to get off of computer vision. Didn't want to get off of it. Didn't want to move on to but it was like, sorry, we didn't pay the maintenance agreement. It's going to stop existing. Your job goes away. And they were even threatened, if you're not off by this date, you're fired. That's it. They had to go that far on it. And I remember talking to a guy and he said, I'm just afraid because I am the best at this. And I said, what makes you think you won't be the best at that? You're selling yourself short. You're good at that because you learned it. Now go learn this new thing and become the best at that. Be one of the first people to switch to it, and then you become the best at it faster. And I know this is a hard thing to do, but I think people who are going to Macstock are probably open-minded. They're probably open-minded to learning new things. And there have been a lot of studies that show that the plasticity in the brain slows down as we age. And I'm not talking about dementia, but just general plasticity. You start to lose it. But if you exercise it, you can maintain and even grow the ability to learn new things. If you don't, you just lose it faster. So I think people who are going to Macstock are the kind of people who want to learn new things. That's my theory.
I think it's more than a theory. I think you're right. I think they want to learn. It's not just that they're open to it. They're coming to this to learn. That's the way I feel about it. Yeah. I'm coming to learn from you and from all the other presenters because none of us know it all. It'd be nice if we did, but we don't. So I think that's a great topic because unfortunately, yeah, you're right. There are more and more get off my lawn types. Or people moving into that stage when they really, it's such a waste. It's such a waste of time and all. And there's so many fascinating things going on out there that you should have an opinion about, or you should know what you can do with them. ChatGPT and all the large language models is a great example.
Right. Now, I'm not going to be all philosophy and touchy-feely. That's just sort of my introduction. But the way I'm going to try to approach this, and of course, Jill McKinley's had her charts done for 7 months, and I'm just working on mine now. It's pretty early for me. I'm going to try to do this, and I'm going to teach some stuff, but I'm going to teach it in level 1, level 2, level 3. So level up. Get it? Huh? Pretty tricky. So I'm going to say, on this topic, here's level 1. try doing these things. This kind of stuff, this kind of might work for you. But if you want to go to the next level, this is what you can do in level 2, and this is what you can do in level 3. I'm not sure all of my ideas will have a 1, 2, 3. Some might have a 1 and a 3 or a 2 and a 3. I don't know. But that's kind of my idea, is to give like an introductory, to get your feet wet in it here. But here's what you could do if you go higher and higher, and to consider doing those kind of things in a higher level.
So what kind of things are we talking about? I mean, are we talking about learning new programs? Are we talking about creating new projects, starting a podcast, or writing a book?
No. I'm still more right in the things you can do on your computer, not project based like that, but more things one of the topics is going to be learning a few terminal commands. Why would you want to learn a couple of terminal commands? What could you do if you got a little farther or further and further into learning about that? Again, I'm not done with my charts, Chuck, so I don't know what all of these are. But if I went back to the Finder left sidebar idea, there's level 1, level 2, level 3 in that as well, where you can see that there's more you can do. And maybe that's going to be one of them. Text replacements in Mac OS and in iOS, but then what can you do if you get into Text Expander? So that's kind of the same, level 1, level 2, level 3. Learning new keystrokes. There's level 1 keystrokes, and there's level 2, and there's level 3. Does that kind of make sense? More at that kind of level, almost in the tiny tip vein, but fat tips when you get to the end.
I think it makes an amazing amount of sense, and it's a great idea, because the Mac OS itself is filled with examples of level 1s and maybe level 2s that, you can go so far with it. But if you really want to step up to level 2 or level 3, you're going to need to step out to a third-party app that focuses just on that. And, your example about Text Expander is a perfect one, because you can get into text expansion without ever touching Text Expander. But if you want to go to that next level or 2 or 3, you need a dedicated tool. So that's a terrific idea.
And I think zealots like me, I'm talking to somebody who's maybe pretty new to the Mac, or they haven't really stretched themselves very much in what they can do, or on the iPhone or on the iPad. And I'm like, oh my God, you know what you need? You really need Text Expander. You got to go out and buy it right away. And look what I can do. I can do embedded dates, and and I get all bleh about it, and I just scare them away. But if I can show them, okay, here's level 1, where maybe that's a little bit you want to do. And then after you get used to using level 1, you're like, oh, I wonder what else I could do. What she got on her next tier up that maybe I could take advantage of. But she's cray-cray about that top level stuff. I'm never going to need that. And I think it might help to get people on the road to leveling up even higher. If they know that there's steps, they don't have to go to Allison Crazyland at the top level to start.
And isn't it funny how often we end up on level 2, level 3, whatever, without even realizing, because we never thought we needed it, but we decided to try a tiny tip or something like that. And that worked out well. Let's see what I can do with the next thing. I mean, shortcuts is in there, different kinds of automation that, if people think, wow, I'll never automate anything. I don't need to do that. And then suddenly they find out how easy it is or how useful it is. And then they're automating everything that they can find.
Yeah, I think I'm probably not going to talk about automation, but that's definitely one that fits in that category for me. I'm not a shortcuts fan at all, by the way, but there's that definitely fits in the category of you do one little thing and then you start going, oh, maybe I could do that. But I struggled a lot with automation for a very long time. I wanted to automate because I just like new things. And I couldn't figure out what to automate. But once I got one little thing, then I kept picking at it and going to the next one and the next one, and the next one, and got more into it in other tools. So that's pretty fun.
It's going to be a great session. Yours, the whole weekend is going to be terrific. And this year we're all under one roof that you never really have to leave.
Nice.
Because there's a restaurant there. So, we will be able to do the early morning sessions, the late night sessions, and everything that we've in the past. You've always had to say, okay, well, we're going to go over to this restaurant. Oh, that restaurant's closing down. Now we've got to come back and try to take over the hotel lobby. Now we're just going to be there the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be great. Dave Hamilton coined it perfectly. He referred to Macstock as camp. Think of it as summer camp for nerds. It's just great because it's friendships that get made there that are absolutely lifelong. The people I've gotten to know, and it's not a cliquey thing. And I worried a little bit because sometimes when you think that, you're the one in the clique and you don't realize. But I've had people just write to me going, "Man, it was so great to meet and hang out with you. Remember when you bought me a beer and this was great? We had this great conversation." And it is like that. You just sit down at a table, and no matter what, whoever you just sat with is going to be interested in the same kind of stuff you are. You're really with your tribe, I think, when you're there. Because we don't always fit in normal public situations.
Speak for yourself. Wait a minute. Why are you including me in this?
Yeah. You've got social skills, but nerds like me, no.
No, you're absolutely right. Because last year at the barbecue, which sort of kicked things off last year as opposed to the workshops this year, there's somebody here, that hi, I'm Chuck, and yeah,
I don't know
where are you
you
from? And not why are you here, but what are you looking forward to? And right away, you just have great conversations, and it's all just people, but it takes away some of the social awkwardness because we all are there for one particular purpose.
I take special care too to look for somebody sitting by themselves. Or I remember one time at the Bulldog, this guy was sitting by himself, and so I just left all of my friends and just went over and sat down and started talking to them, and then went, "Hey, why don't you come over here?" And pretty soon he was the middle of everything. I mean, he was a party guy. He was a great guy. He was a lot of fun, and I remember doing that at the barbecue too, seeing somebody just standing there nervously holding a beer, standing by themselves, going, "Oh, I don't know anybody," and you go over and talk to them, and then you drag them together to the rest of everybody else, and then everybody's friends. It's a good vibe. It's a really, really good vibe. And there's enough time in the schedule to get to know people on top of all of the learning that you're going to do in the session. So I think that's a really tricky thing to get right, because some conference planners plan everything back to back with 3 minutes in between each session, and I like it better where you've got time to meet and hang out and talk to people and give Chuck a hard time, and it's fun. It's fun. It's all fun at camp.
And folks, if you want to just rewind that a little bit, you'll hear that Allison just described herself as a stalker because she's looking for people to prey on that are over in the corner all by themselves. So I just want to point that out.
All the introverts just went, nope, nope, tear those tickets up, donate those to charity. Exactly. Oh, come on. I'm fun, Chuck.
That's one word for it. Yeah. Why can we never do a serious interview?
Okay. I don't know, because you're so silly. You're just always joking around.
Well, Mike has been kind enough to give all the speakers codes that will give potential attendees $30 off attending either the 3-day session that includes the workshops or the 2-day strictly Macstock weekend sessions. Allison, what is your code that people can use to save a little money and get to Macstock?
How about Podfeet? PODFEET, and that's all capital letters. And just so you know, I get $30 too. You get $30. Everybody wins. It's a happy, joy deal. So sign up now. Make sure you go to the workshops. If I'm in there with one person, I'm still going to be enthusiastic, but I'm hoping for more than one. More than 0 would be really nice. I'd like that.
Well, I feel pretty good about this year's sessions because you do seem a bit more animated than last year when you was like, I'm going to present this. And so I have high hopes.
But it was fun in the end.
Oh, yeah. We got you there.
One of my favorite things to say to my audience is I'm not always right, but I'm always entertaining.
Okay. That's true.
It took you a little while to get that one, Chuck?
Yeah.
A little slow today.
I was thinking about often wrong, but never in doubt, but no, never mind. We're not going to do that. So folks, you want to go to Macstock Conference and Expo.com. Use Allison's code PODFEET. If you want to use my code, mine is MacVoices. They're kind of obvious. I don't care which one you use. I don't care if you don't use it at all. Just register for Macstock and come and hang out with me, with Allison, with all the folks you're seeing here on the road to Macstock. We're going to have a blast. We want you there.
Yeah, we do.
Allison, before we go, I kind of want to let this audience catch up a little bit on what all you're doing. I mean, we all know about the NosillaCast, but you also seem to have your toes in a lot of other things. I keep running across you other places. Is there a master list somewhere?
Not really. I definitely do. Like I said, I do the Screencast Online videos. I'm on the Daily Tech News show pretty often, but I show up on a lot of shows. I'm going to be on the final episode of The Parallel with Shelley Brisbane coming up soon. I'm on Clockwise. But one of the most important things I do is I do a show with Bart Bouchatz called Programming by Stealth. And it sounds like a crazy idea, and it kind of is Bart is teaching the audience to program in an audio podcast. Now, the reason it works is there are tutorial show notes that go along with it where Bart explains everything in writing and has, formulas and all the programming stuff in the notes so you can follow along with it. Here is explanations. And my job in that is I'm kind of the idiot in the front row going, I don't understand. And so I ask a lot of questions and interrupt him when I don't think he's been as clear as I need him to be. And my level of knowledge is everything is fresh to me. And it's kind of funny. A lot of people are taking the classes from the perspective of, I already know JavaScript, but I want to up my game. Or we did a series on Git, and which is a version control system, and that's a specific set of sessions you can listen to. And people knew Git but didn't know Git, didn't really wanted to really understand the underpinnings in it. We just did a series on JQ, which is a language that lets you query JSON files. That was really fun. And Bart basically has itches he wants to scratch, and so he jumps in and teaches us the thing he wants to learn. And he says he's usually only 1 to 2 lessons ahead of the audience in learning what it is he's going to teach. And it's great fun. It's been going on, I think we're on 167 episodes. And that's found at you can find it through podfeed.com. Everything good starts with podfeed.com, Chuck. That's what I always tell people.
Okay. Well, that's great. And again, once you know Allison, you're going to find her all over the place, because I'll put, turn on a new podcast or something, and with our guest Allison Sheridan, it's like, oh my God, I can't get away from her.
There she is.
She's everywhere. She's all Allison all the time. So, Allison, it's great to see you. Thanks so much. I know Steve is coming with you, and of course we try to get him in front of the camera, but he just isn't into it. So
nope. There's definitely 2 different roles played by the members of this family. He is my support structure, and he runs my live show, which I do on Sunday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific time at podfeed.com/live. And that's where you can just watch me creating the show. So it's not the show, it's me creating the show, which sounds silly, and maybe it is, but we have a lot of fun doing it. And Steve's the producer on that. And he does all of the videos that I do for the interviews for like at CES and CSUN and CSUN Assistive Tech Conference. By the way, we're not done. We just last week played the last interview I did at CES. CS was in January, so we finished in June, and we're still milking the ones from CSUN. We just meter them out a couple a week or one a week.
I do the same thing with the shows from CES and NAB. There's this huge push. Everybody wants to know, and they seem to think it's important to have it released right then. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, a lot of the products and things that are out don't even come out until weeks or months later. So yeah. A lot of the content it's not quite evergreen, but it certainly has a long shelf life. And so I like that, because otherwise you're sitting there trying to absorb, hours and hours of stuff on top of all the other coverage from all the other outlets that you're probably paying attention to. So I like that idea that you drifted out a little bit.
I don't do news. The people who do news have to get it out right away. I don't do news. I want people to learn about something. And if you cram too many of them at them, they just don't see them, I don't think.
Yeah.
That's my theory.
Good point.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you, Chuck, no matter what you say.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to seeing you and Steve and everybody else.
Mostly Steve.
Well, I wasn't going to say that, but, if the shoe fits.
Everybody likes Steve better. I'm at peace with it. It's okay.
Well, I was going to say, when you were talking about how you produce the NosillaCast, that you're the on-air talent. Steve is the brains.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh boy, I had her agreeing there for just a second until she thought about it.
Right.
Oh, okay. So, folks, Macstock Conference and Expo.com. Use the code PODFEED or use the code MacVoices to get $30 off attending either the 2-day or the 3-day session. You can't stack them, so you have to pick one. But please come and join us. We're going to have a blast. We really want you there because you will come away meeting and having new friends. You will learn an incredible amount, and you'll be exhausted by the end of the weekend. And I've never been happier to be that exhausted. I promise you.
Just waiting for the next year.
Exactly. Allison, I'll see you in not Woodstock this year, Crystal Lake, in just a couple weeks.
That's right. We don't have to change the name, though. It's still Macstock.
It's still Macstock. Exactly.
All right. See you there, Chuck.
Sounds good. Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. One last time, Macstock Conference and Expo for all the details. Register. We'll see you there. As always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.